Today we have a very exciting test between the brand new Audi Q6 E-Tron Quattro and the Skoda Enyaq 85X. We're going to do a range test at 120 kilometers an hour between these two cars, 75 miles an hour. And since the Audi is the newer car, the newer platform, and has a bigger battery, I think this will actually have more range than this. 94.9 kilowatt hours usable versus 77 kilowatt hours usable with this car. But I've tested both of these two cars extensively up until this point in time, and this is more efficient. But will that efficiency offset the bigger battery pack in this? I don't think so. But the big question is, how much more range will this get? Will it be 10 kilometers more at 120 kilometers an hour? Will it be 30? Will it be 40? And I'm also going to give my driving impressions about these two cars, because this, spec for spec compared to this, is about 270,000 kroners more expensive, or about 25,000 euros. And that is a big price difference. So we're going to see how much more range the Audi has and how much better it is to drive compared to this. I just want to ask you guys a very small favor before we set off this test, and that is subscribing to the channel. It takes you about a second and it's completely free, but it helps me out a lot, a whole bunch, because the car manufacturers, when they look at who they invite to events, to early drives, and to premieres, they look at the subscriber count. So the more subscribers I have, the more tests like this I'm going to be able to do in the future. And I really want to try to reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of this month, by the end of October. And if I do that, I'm going to be able to go on a big road trip somewhere in Europe. Maybe I want to go to the LA Auto Show and test a whole bunch of cars in California. So I just want to ask you guys for that small favor. Please hit that subscribe button down below, because more than 80% of you watching these videos on a consistent basis aren't subscribed. So thank you very much. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for the support. We are doing this range test on my standard route, which is from Dal to Møller and back on the E6 motorway. On our way northward to our halfway point, I will drive the Skoda Enyaq with the cruise control set to 120 kilometers an hour. My friend Sindre will drive the Q6 E-Tron in the same manner, following me with this cruise control set to the maximum distance. At Møller, which is our halfway point, we will switch cars and I'll drive the Q6 E-Tron with the Enyaq following. This way both cars get the same amount of time in clean air. They'll also be driven in efficiency mode with their AC set to 21 degrees Celsius, and both cars are on 19-inch wheels, so this comparison should be as fair as possible. What a beautiful day to be doing a range test. I mean, the sun's out, there's barely a cloud on the sky. And even though we're in early October and, you know, the weather is turning to fall, it's still about 10-11 degrees Celsius outside. So nice temperatures. It's not too cold outside, and the trees are slowly turning yellow and red. And the landscape is just becoming a little bit more colorful. So let's call up my friend Sindre, who's driving the Q6 E-Tron, and yeah, check out the consumption after about 10-15 minutes on the road. Hello Sindre, how's the trip going in the Q6?
Oh, it's going great.
The weather today is awesome. I mean, what a beautiful day to be out driving, right? So do you want to give us an update on the consumption of the Q6?
Right now, kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers is 22.2.
22.2. So I'm at 20.7. That is interesting. So it is a bit lower in this car. So maybe this car is more efficient, and we're going to offset that bigger battery pack in that Q6 E-Tron a little bit. But okay, thanks for the update, Sindre. Enjoy the trip, and I'll talk to you once we get to our halfway point and we switch up cars. I have to say, I really like the Skoda Enyaq. I think it's great value for the money, even though, you know, the exterior styling may not be my favorite. I really do like the interior. I think it ties the Audi Q4 e-tron in this class of vehicle of having the nicest interior. In some aspects, it is nicer, like this spec with the leather, the ambient lighting is actually pretty nice, and it's comfortable, it's roomy, it's well equipped, but It's a lot more noisy than I remember the Enyaq being. We're on 19-inch wheels here, so the smallest wheel entire combo. And after having spent 1.5 weeks in the Volkswagen ID.7 GTX Tour, this is a lot more noisy when it comes to road and to tire noise. I mean, like wind and tire noise. This is a lot more noisy. So it's going to be interesting hopping into the Q6 on the same stretch of road to see how much more quiet that is. Okay guys, we're now at our halfway point. We're gonna take an exit up here. We're gonna go to the Shell station, and then we're gonna update you guys on the numbers, the stats, the consumption, the battery percentage, and then we're gonna switch cars and then head back. Okay, so because we're stopping, we're gonna stop the timer because we are timing this run. Okay, so my consumption so far is at, let's see, I'm at 19.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and the battery pack is at 65%. We're at 65% state of charge. 19.9 and 65% state of charge. Okay, Sindre, you put the car into park, and do we have the numbers? What's the average consumption? 21.1. I'm at 19.9, and your battery percentage is 75% state of charge. And that's interesting because you started with 95% and I started with 90% state of charge, and I'm at 65 and you're at 75. Yeah. So that's that bigger battery pack for you. You know, you have higher consumption, but you have a much bigger battery pack. So far I think you're pretty much winning on the total range. But now let's switch up cars, and then we'll head back to our start point, and then we're going to connect to the chargers, and then we're going to see what charging speed we're getting with just, you know, passive driving, no preconditioning, even though both of these two cars have preconditioning. So let's switch up cars, and yeah, we'll see you guys once we get back to our start point. Immediately from behind the wheel of the Audi, it feels more solid, it feels more expensive. It feels more sharp. I mean, this is built on the PPE platform, which is developed by Porsche, but to be used across different Volkswagen Group vehicles between Audi and Porsche, while the Enyaq is built on the MEB platform, which is, you know, their cheapest electric car platform. And that shows. The steering gear is much tighter. The suspension tuning is tighter, even though this is on sport suspension. It's a bit more compliant and comfortable than that Enyaq. The interior, maybe necessarily the materials aren't nicer, but I think this spec with this fabric is really high quality. It's really cozy and warm, and it just feels like a much more expensive product. Also, this new infotainment system with this huge driver display and also this large infotainment system screen, it just feels more modern and upmarket. But what really surprises me, and one thing I noticed immediately after hopping into this car, is that this is actually more noisy. There's a lot more tire noise in this car. And these cars are basically on the same size wheels and tires. They're as close as can be. And it really surprised me. I have to raise my voice now, going 120 kilometers an hour or 75 miles an hour here on the motorway. That to me is very curious. Okay, we are now approaching our exit back where we started here at the Ionity charging station in Dal. So what we're going to do with both cars now, we're going to connect them simultaneously at one charger each, of course, and then we're going to see what charging speed we get after just a few hours driving on the road with, just passive driving, no preconditioning. So both cars do have preconditioning. This has it via the navigation system on route. The Skoda has that, but Skoda also has manual preconditioning via the navigation system, which I think is a huge thing up on this. I don't understand why Audi don't do that. When I went to the launch of this, or the technical launch earlier this year, we had like a 2-day presentation with the engineers, and we asked this specific question, and they're like, no, maybe in future we don't want to give the user that burden or that option in my mind yet, but maybe they'll add it at a later point in time, because Volkswagen have it now and Skoda have it. So, Audi's supposed to be, the premium brand compared to those. So hopefully. Okay guys, we're now back at the charging station. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna charge both cars, as I said, to see what charging speed we get. So we're going to try to charge both cars. So I think we're going to do this for the Enyaq and the other one here for the Audi. So this one is called 4. So I'm going to reveal the consumption and thus, you know, the range at the end of the video. I want to, you know, keep that till the end, keep you guys a little bit on your toes. But we arrived here with this car with 39% stated charge. So it's at a little bit lower state to charge. So hopefully it's going to get, you know, closer to its peak charging speed. This does have a peak charging speed of 175 kilowatts, but will it get that charging speed, you know, at 39% and also with only passive heating? You know, the temperature outside today has been between 10 and 13 degrees Celsius, so a little bit cold, but after a few hours driving on the road, the battery should be up to maybe 20, maybe even 25 degrees Celsius. So maybe it should be up to operating temperature to be able to get that speed. So if you come closer here now, and we see the screen here now, you can see the speed is now climbing, 39% stated charge, and it is climbing, 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 climbing. So while that is ramping up speed, let's go to the other side and let's see if we can start the charger here on the Audi. So this is funny, this is the specific car I did my last testing with this car with, and this has a fault with the charging port. So it will go out and it will stop here. Yeah, look at that. This is the exact same car, so that's quite funny. This is the car that set the record on my long trip test. 6 minutes charging to cover that whole trip. So let's see, we're gonna choose this charger here, and this is called number 3. And that's nice that the Ionity charging app lets you start several chargers. Like you could use this for videos and range tests. So we're gonna choose to pay, there we go. But one thing to consider with these Ionity chargers, it reserves 50 euros or 500 kroners every time you connect one of these chargers. So let's go over to the first one here and see what charging speed we're getting now with the Enyaq. Okay, we're getting 130 kilowatts. So we're about 45 kilowatts shy of the peak charging speed without preconditioning and being at 43% stated charge. I don't think that's too bad. You know, that's one of the benefits of having a lower charging speed, because even when you're not preconditioning the battery, maybe you forget, maybe you don't even think about it, maybe you're not even aware of the feature, this is the charge speed you're gonna get. So let's hop over to the Audi now. We have to go a little bit like a labyrinth, zigzag between the cars here. Okay, so we're now at 52% stated charge, as you can see here, and this is ramping up rapidly. But this is interesting. Look at that, guys. Yes, we are at a lower stated charge, but we're only getting 125 kilowatts at 52%. And this is essential. So that's why, you know, I make these videos. This is why I want to do the comparison this way. Because yes, this car is going to get its peak charging speed if you precondition with the navigation system, and that car's also going to do it. I've done that multiple times in summer and winter with these cars. But if you don't precondition, even though this has a peak charging speed that's 100 kilowatt faster than this, if you don't precondition the battery, you're not going to get that speed. So 129 kilowatts, 130 kilowatts is what we're peaking at. So just a last update, guys. We're now at 51% stated charge, and we're charging at 130 kilowatts with the Enyaq. So again, that shows you if you don't precondition the battery, you're not going to get the most out of neither of these cars, even though this, in theory, should be able to charge at 100 kilowatts faster. Before I reveal the results, I just want to give a huge thanks to my good friends at Møller Oslo Vest, Skoda, for lending me this Enyaq for the video. This is a demo car they had available for me to loan almost the whole day to film this video. So if you're looking for a new Skoda, I would highly recommend you guys to check out my friends at this dealer. There will be a link in the description box down below. Now let's take a look at the results. So we've seen the charging speeds now, and when we arrived here, the Audi's consumption was 21.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers over this trip, which is 193 kilometers. The Skoda's consumption was 19.9, so quite a bit lower. So when we do the calculations, this has a 77 kilowatt hour battery pack, this has 94.9 kilowatt hour and those are usable capacities. And we do the conversions, we do the calculations, and we subtract 3% for heat and discharging losses. This gets a range of 375 kilometers, which I think is very solid at a constant 120 kilometers an hour or 75 miles an hour. And this gets a range of 422 kilometers. Again, under today's conditions, dry roads. There was basically no wind between 0 and 1 meters per second as a tailwind on our way up. So basically no wind at all. So this has 47 kilometers more range, which works out to about 12% more range. But this has a 23% bigger battery pack. So it's really curious and really interesting, this test between these two cars, because, you know, this is a lot less expensive, has a much smaller battery, but I think this is more quiet on the road than this. But this is more sporty, it feels more luxurious, it has more advanced and newer tech, and on a twisty road, this is great. I love to drive this car. And actually, guys, next week I'm going to Germany, to Stuttgart, to drive the brand new Macan and Macan 4S, which is built on the same platform. If you don't want to miss out that, you got to subscribe to the channel, guys. But this is interesting. So 50-ish kilometers more range, but you're still paying about 25,000 euros more. Is that worth it for just the money, that extra range? Well, it may be, it may not be. Here, if we precondition, we would have gotten much faster charging speed. So that extra range combined with that faster charging on a trip is quickly going to accumulate to a lot of saved time. But this is still a great car. I think this is great value, this Enyaq. So guys, let me know what you think down below about the results of the Q6 E-Tron Quattro and this Enyaq 85X. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.